Welcome to What Not to Do. I'm Kyle Schmidt, and this is episode 43. It's part 4, our final in the series with Ron Jung, and he is going to cast an incredible vision for us today. Not only that those who speak well rule the world, but they rule the world through generations yet unborn. That's amazing. You're going to love this conversation. Hold tight. We'll be right back. One of my biggest aims in life is to give you more in use value than I take in cash value. And I'm so thankful for all the thoughts and ideas you've shared with me on how I can better do that. One of those ideas that has come up on a few different occasions has been, we love the long form conversational format, but sometimes it takes a while just to get through even one episode. What would it look like to aim for episodes that are 1 hour or less in length without compromising the format? And I thought, great idea. I love the long conversational format too, and I really want those conversations to be as accessible and easy to digest as possible. So I'm absolutely pumped to introduce a new innovation of what not to do. We'll keep the long form conversational format that has been so well received, and we'll divide it into 30 to 45 minute segments that'll make it more easy to digest on your morning commute or working out at the gym or run or hanging out at the house. This is going to be awesome. I'm so pumped to keep giving you such high value conversations, and now more accessible and easier to digest than ever. I'm so proud to be your guys' host and so thankful for all your help innovating and iterating to make this community even better. I love you guys. And with that, let's get to what not to do. So some people might be listening, well, wow, that's a terrible parent.
Yes, I am.
Why would you ever force your kid to do something? And this goes back to, I think, what you
have no idea.
Goes back to that first comment that you said as far as maybe you have the wrong passions, right?
Yeah.
And so there's some ways of thinking that are saying like, well, hey, whatever we naturally are passionate about is good, right? And you shouldn't try to force someone to do something that they don't, want to do. So I get in a sense where that's coming from, but then I would also say, okay, well, if someone naturally is passionate about going to kill somebody,
right.
Does that mean we should say, well, all right, son, if that's what you want to do,
go for it. Right?
You can make a lot of money doing that as an assassin, a hitman or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I mean, so that's goofy. So like, what you mean is that we want to have lawful passions that have the best interests of the world in mind.
Yes.
Obviously passions that aren't self-destructive, constructive for our family and blessing to the world around us.
Yeah.
And those need to be shepherded. And so sometimes, and so then obviously it's like someone might say, well, okay, playing basketball isn't necessarily self-destructive, right? But what you're doing is you're helping your son or your child to think through. I mean, how many times, for instance, do we not do something because we're afraid because we're not good at it?
Yeah.
And what you're doing is you're training him to say, hey, go take risks, son. Right?
Yeah.
Go try something that you think you might be terrible at and get over yourself, get over your own ego. Who cares what other people think of you? Just go try and go all in and see what you could do, and maybe you'll come to really like it. And if you don't, totally cool. Then go do something else.
Yeah.
So do you speak on that a little bit? Because you can imagine the pushback that you probably get,
Yeah, well, I'm right and they're wrong, so I'm fine. Right? Yeah, no, but it's again, seriously, like I take my job as a father seriously, right? So I have these kids, and what kind of people am I training them to be?
Right.
Now you got to hear me. I could care less whether they're playing a sport or not. Right. I don't.
It was just an example.
It was just my example, but what they do need to do is have that experience of being able to learn how to be competent in something before and being able to make decisions about it, not just because at this moment I don't feel like it. At Providence Academy, for instance, one of the things we do is the ultimate end is you're going to have these high school seniors writing these big, long papers, turning it into a speech, giving it in front of a host of people, and then being peppered with questions by the board and faculty, right? Now, that takes some courage. So, and I think a lot of people would go, I would never do that, or I'd hate that, or what we do is from a very early age, we're making sure that the kids are getting up in front of people and reciting things they've memorized, right? And we force them to do it, right? So how many times I've had parents come and say, well, my son or my daughter is very shy, and we'd like it if they didn't have to get up in front of the whole school and all the parents to do that. And we'd say, you might be in the wrong school, right? No, this is what it's training, right? So you know what they're going to do? They're going to be very embarrassed, and they're going to give it their best shot, and we're going to be fine with their best shot, right? We're not trying to embarrass anyone, but you know what? They have to face the fear. They have to do it. And we want to do it from a very young age, so they get used to it. By the time they're in high school, getting in front of people is not a big deal. Right. Going back, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but my son Zach is a pre-med student at Wisconsin Lutheran. He's already accepted in this program for med school that it was this early acceptance program. So part of that is he had to apply to med school as a high school senior, and his application got accepted so that he was invited to come interview. So there's, I forgot how many, 10,000 applications. They narrow it down to 1,000 who get interviewed. And so here's this high school kid doing these interviews in groups with other, mostly college seniors. And afterwards, he texts me, and I come pick him up from med school. This, 17-year-old kid. And his response to me is he felt so sorry for a lot of these guys who were trying to get into med school and how nervous they were talking in front of all these people. Right? They said there's a sweat rolling off of them. They're stumbling. I said, "How are you?" He goes, "Well, I had a good time." Right? He said, "I even got to crack a couple jokes, and and I said, "Why do you think you're so comfortable?" He goes, "Well, I'm just used to doing that." I was used to doing that. So if I would have at the beginning said, "Well, Zach's a little shy," or so don't make him do that. Or let's make an accommodation for him so he's not. Do you know what I mean? He wouldn't be there.
He's not passionate about it.
Right. So he hates. He's kind of introverted. He doesn't like being in front of people. He doesn't like being noticed. He doesn't like, But he was trained. Mm-hmm. Right. And he had a good time at it. Now he has no problem.
And they got him to where he wants to go.
And exactly.
Right. And that's the importance of. What you're saying is the fruit of that kind of training. I think it's kind of a straw man just to be like, "Oh, you're forcing your child to do something they don't really want to do," as if that were the end all be all. It's like, actually, I'm helping my child to go get what he really wants in life.
Yes.
Right? Because there's going to come so many obstacles in life that if it was just about his fleeting wants and desires at that moment, at that time, he would quit everything. He would never actually stick it out. And this is, this whole podcast is about failures, right?
Yeah.
And we look at failures as a speed bump, not as a dead end, right?
Yeah.
And you see a speed bump. Are we teaching our kids to run away from that speed bump? Don't go over it. Just you retreat. Go. No,
right.
that's
what's the common term? A snowflake or whatever. It's just it's sad. That saddens me when I see young people who can't do that. I'm relighting my.
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
It's so good. I want to get this. Can you get a roach clip or something for the cigar?
I smoke it down till it burns my fingers. But yeah, I mean, it's like we all get that idea of resilience and that kind of grit because we realize that not every moment of life is we're going to find ourselves doing things that we particularly really love to do, but they're things that need to be done, and they're part of that greater goal and purpose and the things that we're truly passionate about. And we have to keep that in perspective, and that kind of formation is really important at a young age.
Yeah.
But in a sense, we're being trained and formed the rest of our lives towards other things.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with like weightlifting. You're lifting weights and it tears down your muscle fibers. Or you crank out 10 reps, but you failed at or you failed at number 9. It's like, well, I'm not going to go back to the gym because I didn't get my 10 reps. That's goofy. No, that's actually what you want, right?
Absolutely.
But if we're training our kids just to stop when they don't feel like it anymore,
right? Or
because they quote unquote failed,
or it's hard,
or because it's hard and they broke a sweat, like. We're not gonna. They won't turn out to be productive members of society. And so again, I get one side of the thing where it's like, and this is what you're not saying, and
you're not saying, well, just don't pay attention to who your kids are. Don't pay attention to how they, learn and what the things that they like to do, and just, whatever what dad wants is that's who you're going to be. You're going to be just like that. You're not saying anything like that.
Not at all.
It's actually a more careful studying of your child and then shepherding and guiding them, right?
Yeah.
And that's really, really important for their overall formation.
And you can also see, what are the habits or character parts to your children that if they're left unaddressed, it's going to plague them for the rest of their life, right? So you have to intervene, and you have to talk, get to them, and part of it is getting that idea of like, how do we get you to love this? How do we, right, to do something different?
Why do I do what I do? Let me tell you, my why is to use my presence and my prose to inspire you to go all in on you, so that you live a legacy worth leaving.
I know some of your audience is probably going, man, I wish I was forced to, give speeches and such. Because those who can communicate well rule the world, right? And so many very intelligent, competent people get passed over simply because they can't get their point across. They can't speak in a group. They can't, so check out Toastmasters. Really, if that's your weakness, why don't you just do it,
I actually thought about starting a Toastmasters group, having it at Prohibition and calling it Blowing Smoke.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be kind of fun.
It's like, because obviously the play on words, you're giving a speech and all kind of stuff, and just blowing smoke or whatever it is. But no, totally agree. And I think people get, why you'd want to go take a Toastmasters, or why you want to focus on public speaking, right?
Yeah.
But why wait till later not to do that? Why when you have the opportunity for those kind of experiences earlier on? I'll tell you this,
So I did Toastmasters. So just a little background is I was in Boy Scouts. My dad forced me to do Cub Scouts, which I hated. But I got to go an outstanding Boy Scout troop that was just fantastic, phenomenal. One of the formating of major formative experiences, I think, of my life. But for one of our merit badges, we went through a Toastmasters group. So it's a couple of us, teenage kids with all these adults, But it was great because that's where I learned how to be in front of people and talk. I didn't have that opportunity in school in drama. I joined drama in 10th grade because there was a good-looking girl in it. And but I enjoyed it.
Anyone joins drama, right?
That was I couldn't get into the physics course, and because I was trying at a younger grade to get into physics. So they told me to pick another class, and inevitably someone was going to drop out and you can get in. So I joined drama, and then I loved it so much that when the opening came into physics, I thought, I'll just take it out of junior college this summer, which I did. But I love drama.
Well, I was going to say, growing up, in our youth group, if we had a youth convention that we were going to go to or something like that, my parents wouldn't pay for it. Sometimes they did, but often what they would do is I'd have to go to my youth pastor and say, Pastor Jason or Pastor Kevin, how can I earn my, ticket to. And so it'd be some kind of fundraiser. Maybe there'd be candy bars or something like that. So I'd have to go around the neighborhood, right, knock on all the neighbors' doors, and in that time you usually knew, 2, 3, 4 houses, but I'd have to go out all afternoon and just go talk to random strangers and all that kind of stuff, and just basically say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and that kind of thing. I didn't want to do that. In a sense, you're embarrassed to do that, and it's why, Mom and Dad, why can't you just pay? What's the big deal? It's $100 for a week or whatever it is, But I look back on some of those experiences and that shaped me, and it gave me the ability just to talk to random strangers, And then even in earlier experiences, my first job was at Dairy Queen on Ridge Road, right, in town, and I'm 14 years old, right, and I'm serving ice cream. I'm talking to random strangers, right. Or I think of growing up in my involvement youth group and part of the music team and things like that, like you're in these capacities where you're constantly learning how to have to speak to people and talk with people and converse with people.
Yes.
And guess what? Today, I host a podcast. It's all about talking with people and getting to know their stories, and I love it.
Yeah.
Right? Because why? I'm good at it and I enjoy it, but I don't know that I would have had I not had some of those formative experiences when I was young.
Yeah. So I'm an extrovert. I think you're an extrovert too, possibly.
I think so. I think it's interesting because for a long time I thought I was an introvert, but I was a very extroverted introvert. But now I think I'm probably more like, if I get my energy, I actually really enjoy this,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway.
When I was young, I loved to just talk and be with people in the crowd, and I did enjoy being in front of people and such. Like what Toastmasters did was help me to learn how to communicate well.
Yeah.
Right? It forced me to do it, and to do it in a very uncomfortable setting, and it's good. But I look at two of my children are introverts, and so to get them at an early age to just be comfortable talking, like you wouldn't know that they were introverted really until they were done, and then they were exhausted and they needed to go have quiet, time by themselves for a long time. The older I get, the more introverted I am. I just want to get away from me. but at a young age, I was a little more extroverted.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, so the whole point is, wherever you're at in life, and if you have kids or if you yourself, like, it's not over. If you're still fogging a mirror, you can still grow and develop. And so in all these ways, don't just merely follow your passions. Marry them with things that you're good at or that you could be really good at, and economic opportunities. And always seek to how can you cultivate yourself. And maybe if you don't have kids, maybe it means forcing yourself to do something that you might not really want to do, like a Toastmasters thing, right? Like, hey, maybe you don't really want to be in public speaking. Well, why don't you challenge yourself? Why don't you get uncomfortable so you can grow? Just like in the weight room, you get uncomfortable. So you're hitting that resistance, but you're going to grow and get stronger.
So just an example, because I want to kind of practice what I preach. I've always had an interest in art, right? Looking at art, not actually doing art. I was never good at it, right? So I hated it, right? Because I wasn't good at it, I hated it. I was the kid, at Sunday school, you'd have to all you had to do is glue the stupid cotton ball onto the sheet. And I make a mess. Like, I don't know, whatever, it just made a mess. And everyone's is all nice and neat, and mine's just this blah. And everyone laughed at it, and I just hated it. Yeah, when I was 6, my beard. And but I've always had this interest in it, and because I was educated in the state of California, I never once had to take an art class, because those are the things that they take away because they always have financial difficulties. So I never had an art class in my life. And then I'm just admiring all these kids at Providence who are just amazing, because they have to take art. It's a requirement from the time they're in kindergarten all the way through I think it's 8th grade, and then it's an elective in high school. But they're just such talented and skilled kids, and I was like, man, I wish. And I know in my head that I don't think I'm a very talented artist, but I can learn the skills to be okay. So my daughter, who's in 6th grade, is doing art lessons online. She also takes art at Providence, but she's doing this thing. So I now sit with her on Sunday evenings, and together I do art lessons with her. And now the embarrassing thing is she's better than I am. I'm 52 and she's 11, right? But I have this determination. I know that it's embarrassing, but my thought is, if I stick with it, it's enjoyable. I just need to learn the skills, and so it's kind of, I think once I have the skills down, I'll probably enjoy it even more.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't have any ambition that I'm going to somehow sell my artwork or something. But I've always admired it. I want to try it, and I'm working at it. And it's, you can't teach old dogs new tricks. Well, I'm going to do it.
So what you're saying is the whole point is you're an old dog.
I am an old dog, but I thought, I don't know if you watched, there's all these movies with Winston Churchill that came out over the last few years.
Okay.
Him painting, and smoking a cigar too.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'd say.
And then I learned about George W. Bush, learned how to paint after he came out of the White House. And he's quite good, and I'm like, I guess if those guys can do it, I should give it a shot.
That's awesome. My dad played a little guitar, pretty average, simple guitar player. But he started when I was 5 years old, right? Yeah. And he started my sister too, who was a year older than I was. So she was 6, I was 5. And after a year, he kind of taught us everything that he knew, and then he asked us, do you want to keep going with it? We'll put you in lessons. And my sister said, no, I'm out. I said, yeah. Well, here 28 years later, a guitar is basically an extension of, it's like another limb of my body, and my sister wishes that she had said yes, 28 years ago. And at the time, I remember growing up, it's like, okay, I needed to practice, 6 days a week, for at least 30 minutes a day. And they're, and so, but sometimes there's the fighting, the arguing. I don't want to practice. I don't feel like, that kind of stuff. But no, you just go do it.
If you could have just done it 4 hours a day, you could have been Justin Bieber.
Right, 25 years ago. Right? So the whole point is just that that consistency, and then guess what? There came a time not that much longer. I'm sure I would sit in for hours in my room and play Elvis Presley songs because I could, right, at a young age. And it's like those loves, they were formed because the capacity or the abilities were formed as well too. In his book Atomic Habits by James Clear, highly recommend it to anyone who's listening. I think I actually have listed in the show notes, or have since the beginning of the podcast. He tells a story about this guy, I think it was in Hungary or Ukraine or Russia. He loved chess, and he had this theory that people didn't have natural talents. But that they could be cultivated and developed and influenced by their environments. And so he had this idea that he was going to have kids, and they were going to grow up to love chess and be really good at chess. And so he explained this to his fiance. And so what they did was they set up their house with chessboards and pictures of chess on the walls and all that kind of stuff. And just to fast forward the story, he had 3 daughters who became grandmasters at chess. Right. And they all loved it. And so they always asked, well, you've been playing chess your whole life. Don't you hate it? Your dad made you do this. They're like, what are you talking about? Yeah. We love it. Yeah. We can imagine ourselves doing anything else. Yes. And it's like, when people look at that, be like, well, that was unfair, Well, look, people, in general sense, people can become good at so many different things in life. But it goes back to the idea of environment, the things that shape us and influence us, and the things that we love from an earlier age. That can be a really powerful thing. Now, of course, you can use that for evil, right? Yeah. But assuming most people have a bent towards, they're generally wanting things to be good, for society, all that kind of stuff. It's just an amazing story of just that kind of thing. And they were grandmasters at 10, 11, 12 years old. Yeah. It wasn't their 20s, crazy. And so it's I think about that, it's makes me want to be a better dad and just pay attention and then also kind of reassess the things that I expose my children to, and then how I can shepherd them. But even what you're saying too, from those experiences, it's just it's amazing. It's amazing. It's just amazing.
Yeah. And my poor mom tried to get us, all 3 of the boys, we had to take piano lessons at an early age, and I hated it so much. I just hemmed it. I made life miserable. Until my mom finally said, fine, you're done. And now I regret it. Imagine if I would have kept that up. That would have been awesome. I could just sit down at the key. When people just sit down at the key, I could have been Justin Bieber. But, we've done that with all our kids. We force them to take piano. You just have to. But only to a certain point, and then they have the choice. Like your dad did. If you want to go on, if you can, we'll play. So we've had my oldest son, Nate, played piano. And then he said, Dad, I want to really play guitar. And they said, great, so we'll get you lessons. But you still have to have piano lessons. So you have half-hour piano lesson, half-hour guitar lesson. And by the way, we're going to teach you classical guitar. Right. So they taught him classical guitar until he got to a certain point. Okay, now you can choose, right? And I don't think he regrets it at all that we forced him to do piano. Yeah. And then we forced him to do classical guitar, not just...
I tell you what, if you can play classical anything, you can play anything. Yeah. My guitar professor in college, I was a vocal major, guitar and piano minor, and my guitar professor, he was classically trained and just could do anything. And he could play it better than anyone else. It was amazing.
How do I do what I do? Well, for me, there's one overarching ultimate principle: to give you more in use value than I take in cash value. It'd be like if I wrote a book and you bought that book for $10, but that book gave you a $1 million idea. I have effectively given you more in use value than I've taken from you in cash value. And that's exactly what I aim to do with what not to do.
Okay, man, so tell us about books. I know you're a voracious reader.
Yes.
And so I'm not asking you to rank your favorite because I know that's unfair.
Yeah.
But
I'm
good.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks, Jenna. Appreciate it. What are 3 books that you think are so impactful people really need to read them sooner than later? And if they wait, they're probably going to suffer for it.
Besides the Bible.
Yeah.
All right. That they must read, that they've got to read now. So what's interesting to me is we've talked about this before, you and I, not on your podcast, but how a lot of books hit you at the right time.
Yeah.
You know, so if I read one book at this age, it's awesome, and then if I read it at a different time, I probably wouldn't have gotten it.
So snuffed at it or something, or yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, scoffed at it or something like that.
Yeah, I think some of them. So I'm gonna name one that's really obscure. The Offering of Uncles by Robert Farr Capon. And it is it's an out-of-print book. It was written, I think, in 1967. But when I was a young man and read it for the first time, what it helped me do is to see the connection between what I'm doing in my actual life, like my physical existence, and how it's connected to God and His purposes, right? That the things I'm doing have a significance beyond just me. You know, this idea of a lifting up of things, right? And so that's been very impactful to me. I'm a very much a why guy. If I don't know why I'm doing something, it's really difficult for me to
keep
doing it. But again, going back to my billboard, do good and keep going. The idea that this has more of an eternal significance, and it's what we're created to do, is this work, and so that was a great one. And there's all sorts of great things in there. I'm a big guy, as you know. You probably saw the picture on LinkedIn.
Well, we were saying now, but yeah.
But you know, I appreciate his talk about dieting. You know, I used to say we're Christians. We don't diet. We fast and we feast, right? And I really appreciated that. But anyway, that's one of them. I think again. A very impactful book for me, because I read it at an early age, was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I don't think you even need to read the book. I think a good synopsis of the book would help. But just those principles of you know, accomplishing things and how to interact with people, and those first 3 habits of being proactive, of beginning with the end in mind and putting first things first, so powerful to me at an early age. And then as I got older, that seek first to understand, then to be understood, thinking win-win and synergies, just were fantastic. They're just great principles, and again, sharpening the saw, he talks about. So I've taught those from that book to my students, leadership, and other things for years, and I don't think those will go out of style. I think the book's kind of dated itself, but I don't think the principles will.
Right.
So that was a very impactful book to me. I think. What people should read now, or they're going to just really regret it? That's a really hard one.
It's a bit subjective.
It is a bit subjective.
To your point earlier, you know, there could just be different times and seasons for different books, but there's no way to plan for that. So
okay, so this is going to be, I can, have a whole bunch of books. Like I resonate a lot with things like the Lord of the Rings, right, and the Hobbit, where, this. Some of the thinking behind it, the scouring of the Shire, at the end where you realize how much the evil one comes in by subjecting everyone to rules, instead of personal judgment.
Now we call them habits, right?
No.
That's the difference between principles and methods.
Yeah, right? And I've enjoyed. Reading again and again the Harry Potter series, even
doesn't have magic in it though.
Yeah, but and my son and I were just talking about. No, it was Ellie and I think we're talking about recently that the impact of the Deathly Hallows. I don't know if your audience has read Harry Potter. Probably, I don't know.
My wife has. I have not.
Okay, really?
I'm not sure my audience. We have the whole entire series. Yeah.
So there's this part in the books are much better than movies, right? As any books, but there's this part about how Harry, Ron, and Hermione are trying to find these Horcruxes. It's pieces of soul of Voldemort are hidden, and there's this long period of time where they're alone, they're kind of being hunted, they're miserable, they're trying to figure out what to do with very little success, and long periods of just nothing, and then all of a sudden there's a clue, or there's something they find and they go do, and there's this punctuated time of just action, and then nothing again, and they're always feeling like they're a failure, and then in the end they find out that the rest of the world has been hearing about some of their adventures, and it's been inspiring them and giving them hope, right? So the drudgery of their everyday life with a few exciting, adventurous things, right? And I can relate to it. Like this is it's really giving us a good image of like this kind of is life, right? And they kind of had a poor attitude about it, but it was understandable in those circumstances. But that there's these certain events that they were ready for, and acted with boldness and courage, and made a really huge difference, even though they didn't know. They didn't know anyone was listening, and but how much it inspired other people, and I just like it a lot because it continues to make me think once again about do good, keep doing it. Yeah. And I don't know what that's going to do to the rest of the world. And I'm not doing it because I want accolades or anything like that. But the reality is that people do notice. It does make a difference, and there is significance. So I really appreciate that book, and I always recommend them to young people too. Yeah. And especially to talk through that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, exactly what you said, and that's a good parting, benediction here, right? Is to do good and keep doing it. And the whole point is, you don't know how it's going to impact specifically on a micro level, but you do know on a macro level it is going to have an impact in a positive one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the virtue, we've heard it said about, just smile. What happens if you smile at a stranger? You have no idea how that could have won that person, changed their life.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea what they're walking through. It could have saved them from taking their own lives, right?
Yeah.
It's something so simple, so small that you might never see the fruit of in your life.
Yep.
But you don't have to know that you're making impact in the world. And it goes back to that, that simple, consistent, ordinary, loved of the beating of the heart. Yes, there's a time to sprint, all kinds of stuff. And corresponding to this, and I think you maybe had this on Facebook or something like that, but the Riders of Rohan.
Yeah, I was going to say that back to it's like there's such evil. It's basically, what do you do in light of such evil? Well, you write out and face it. And in the book, and in the movie, it's certain death. Like, they know they're not going to win, right? I'm not going to win, so what do I do? Well, we go fight and meet it. We just do it anyway. And, of course, as they go, then, here comes Gandalf and the riders, and they come down and they wipe them out. But
and they don't do this in the movie. But what do they do in the book as they're riding into battle?
Oh, what was it? They sing. They sing.
And I think when you think of like attitude, how we Life is 10% what happens to us. Hey, we didn't want this battle, but it came to us. We're going to fight.
No.
We can choose how we're going to think about it.
Yeah.
We're not just going to smile.
Yeah.
We're going to sing.
We're going to sing.
And how that incites terror, into the enemy as they're riding upon them.
Yeah, and then the horn blowing also.
right.
But there's that. Yeah, you're right, and it's kind of like going, well, why should we? Why should we do this if it's not going to be successful and we're going to end up dying? Well, because it's the right thing to do.
Right. Yeah.
It's the right thing to do. I mean, think of, I think of past generations fighting such things like Normandy, storming the. You ever watch Saving Private Ryan? Right, they're coming off, and it's like that guy died, the next guy died, the next guy died, the next guy died. Now it's my turn. What am I going to do?
Right.
Well, I'm going to go. Right, I might die, I might make it. And if I make it, I might die still, But what do? You do it because it's the right thing.
Right.
Because you just have to do it. And I think, man, where's our world gone to?
Yeah.
Right? Why aren't we doing the right things?
Yeah.
Just do it.
And even to see, because some people, that obligation of duty sounds like drudgery.
It is.
But there's two sides. It's two sides of the same coin. There's duty and there's delight. There's delight in knowing that this is my duty.
Yes.
This is just what I ought to be doing, and it doesn't have to be just drudgery. Although who wants to go, die? Right. Those soldiers don't sign up to go die, but they're willing to for the impact that they're going to have for the sake of others, and those that are going to come after them and after them and after them. And this has been a theme in the podcast from folks from different perspectives of life, of doing things now for something greater than just ourselves in this lifetime.
Yeah.
But thinking, what about the next generation? What about 10 generations
absolutely.
from now? And
that Oneida sign always gets to me. Like, we're planning for the 7th generation.
Yeah.
How awesome is that?
Awesome perspective.
You know the why, and you know the how. So what? What is it that we're going after? Well, our big, hairy, audacious goal is to inspire 1 billion people to live a legacy worth leaving by 2030. That's 100 million people per year for the next 10 years. And my friend, it starts with you. This podcast is for you, it's about you, and I couldn't do it without you.
Yeah, I also asked this question, right? And seriously, think about it. We live in an unprecedented time where you can pretty much do whatever you want. You can. You can choose to do
so many different things.
So many things. And let's just, to be blunt too, is like in sense of moral obligations, that's been lifted completely. Mm-hmm. Like you can live your existence as a selfish, greedy, immoral, perverted, whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, right? And it's equal opportunity. Mm-hmm. Women can do the same. Anything. You can do whatever you want. Right. Then you look back at the, quote, greatest generation, that kind of, like, they're motivated by their duty to do the right thing. Well, what kind of society would you prefer to live in?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? If I knew that my neighbors and my kids, or my parents and my grandparents, my children, the people at school, everyone, their main commitment is trying to do the right thing no matter what.
Yeah.
Right?
How many problems would go away in the world?
Yeah. And what kind of support you can find, what kind of, right? It just seems to be a...
And then the compounding effect of those types of actions. So in Atomic Habits, he talks about how habits don't have to be this big, massive, drastic change in your life. It's like an atom.
Yeah.
And you get one atom, then that clusters with a few other atoms. And these atomish, these atomic habits start to cluster together like a 1% difference every day, and then you get the atomic effect. Bam, boom. Yeah. And it's a similar thing of like exactly what you're saying. If every person in their respected community just sought to do good and kept doing it, you're going to eventually, it's going to give way to that atomic effect. Yeah. It's not an overnight deal. But over the long run, maybe even longer than just your generation, but lifetimes to come, bam, you're going to see a completely different world. I mean, it's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think that can be understood. Just the power of doing good and keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's an awesome message.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think in my lifetime I've seen the transition of, right, that there's from kind of the duty part, but within that, because of some of those assumptions, there's, what do you want to say? A lot of things that are, some things that are suppressed, some of the, it wasn't all roses and stuff, and they expect everyone to kind of be in their place, and there's not equal opportunity, that type of thing. Right. To now where that aspect is in a sense gone, but I think in younger people that I see I think there's a desire to have purpose, meaning, even fairness. I think even
have that why.
What?
Have that why.
Having that why. Yep. So if the generation before me and the current generation would have been like a good mix, it would have been great. So the thing I would say today is it's harder and harder to find people with the grit and the determination to face and to see themselves as having duty and to go through the drudgery. And I but there's hope. I mean, there's always hope.
There's that picture of actually a classical Christian school in Minneapolis that our pastor,
Hope Academy?
Agape Christian.
Oh, Agape, yeah, okay.
So our pastor out there had helped to found that school, and their symbol is a stallion with a bridle. And as he explains it, it's the stallion represents passion, and the bridle represents knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. But you can use that picture for so many different things, and it's exactly what you're saying. You've got duty and you've got delight. Yeah. The duty or the delight might be that passion, that stallion, just the things that drive us and fuel us. But those unbridled can be really destructive.
Absolutely.
But you marry that with this obligation, this sense of duty. Yeah. It's this sweet spot, and now you can channel it for good. And so it's like two ditches: duty and delight. You want to stay in the path. You want both. It's both and. Yeah. One or the other is. A bridle's not going to get you anywhere without a horse,
Because it could easily be a bridle and a donkey, right? Right. You want the stallion, but you need the bridle. Right? Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Ron, this has been so good.
Yeah.
People want to connect with you. Where's the best place to find you? How can they get in touch with you?
By email would probably be the best.
What's the best email for you?
Go revron62 at gmail.com.
Cool. I'll have that in the show notes. And if you guys want to connect with Ron, grab a cigar, coffee, beer, whatever it is. Learn more about Providence, how you guys can partner there. If you got kiddos and you're looking for other options or just want to understand more, it'll be important too, and I'll mention this in the recap, but the podcast that you're having coming out would be awesome if that part of the conversation really got you thinking and you want to learn more. It'd be awesome, man.
Was it like the 6-hour conversation we just had?
You set the record. This is awesome. Joe Rogan style. All right. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. It's been great.
Awesome, yeah.
Great conversation with Ron. Man, there's something about a cigar and even a beer that just draws out great conversation, great laughs, great fellowship. Awesome. Loved my time with Ron at Prohibition, and can't wait to get back there, man. And I'm sure you guys have a favorite spot, coffee shop, restaurant, pub, whatever it might be, that you really, really miss. And I'm excited to get back out of the house after all this quarantine and get face to face with people again. So with that, let's recap. So a few things from this episode, super powerful. First, Ron said this: those who speak well rule the world. That's amazing. We maybe haven't thought of it like that, but when we stop to think, we think, yeah, it's not always the brightest and the best, but those who can move the masses by taking their thoughts and formulating them clearly and persuasively. And it's amazing. And so if that's a weakness of yours, do it, right? Learn how to speak well, and maybe the not to do here is don't underestimate the power of words. Don't underestimate the power of being able to formulate your words to persuade others. And we can obviously use that for ill, right? We can use that for evil, but we ought to be inclined to use it for good. right? To build up our fellow man, to build up our fellow communities, to build up one another, our spouses, our children, all that kind of stuff. Think about that. Think about how you are using your words, carefully crafting them, formulating them in a way that's life-giving, giving life, breathing life into others, right? And make it an aim of yours in life to be someone who speaks and communicates so well, so clearly, in such a way that people walk away being a better version of themselves because of you. Right? That's awesome. Another thing I think was really important here was this: doing it for not just the next generation, right? Not just the second or the third generation from now, but for the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 100th generation from now. Have you ever just stopped to think about that? Like sometimes we get so wrapped up in our own individual mission that we become really, really nearsighted. We don't see long-term what the long-term play is, right? And maybe we don't care. Maybe we are just playing this finite game where it's just all about me in this lifetime, right? It reminds me a little bit of Simon Sinek's book, The Infinite Game, saying why do companies outlast others in that sense? Well, they're playing for something much greater than themselves, and they're playing to keep playing the game, right? Not just for a one-time win. They're playing to keep playing, right? And that's why they last and they succeed, because they're playing at a higher level, on an infinite level, rather than just here in this time level, or what's the big splash I can make and then peace out. And so the question is how is your work? How are your efforts? How is everything that you're involved in and doing? How is that setting up not just the next generation, whether it's your kids, whether it's your employees or successors, whatever it might be, whatever role or capacity you find yourself in? How is your work setting up the next generation for success? And not just the next generation, but 10 generations from now. Have you ever thought about that? One thing you can hear my kiddos in the background now as I'm recording this a little bit later in the morning, so the kids are up and thriving. But one thing that my wife and I have talked about is, what does it sound? What would it look like to write a letter to our generations, every generation, 10 generations from us, right? So generations unborn, generations that don't even exist yet, right? They're gonna get a letter from great grandma and grandpa Schmitz, right? And in a way that we can use our words to breathe life into them, to help cast the vision for our work in our lifetime, and how it wasn't meant just to stop with us, but to continue way beyond us, and for them to take on the torch, right? And to continue to carry that forth, right, for everything that the Schmitz family has stood for and will stand for. And as that continues to grow and to evolve into wonderful ways, but you see 10 generations from now, thriving because of your work, right? They're flourishing. They're happy. They're enjoying life. They're doing what they love to do. They're doing what they are good at, and economic opportunities, and they're changing life. They're changing lives. They're changing culture. What would it look like to start thinking that way? And have you? And so maybe that's the challenge today. Don't discount the power. Don't discount the power of your words, and don't discount the power of how your words can affect not just someone in your 3-foot radius, but 1,000 generations from now. And that, my friend, that is a life worth living. That's a legacy worth living, and that's what we're all about here at What Not to Do. So I want to thank you for listening. If this episode has been impactful for you, share it with others. I love it. I love what I do here, and when people share that, it's great, because you enjoy what I enjoy, and it's just this positive feedback loop. It's phenomenal. One way you can do that is by leaving a 5-star review wherever you happen to tune into What Not to Do, and obviously sharing with others. And if you'd like to be on the show, if you're an entrepreneur, leader, or public figure that is willing and open to lean into their favorite failure, hey, let's get in touch. Let's do it. Let's find a time. And if you know someone that you would love to hear on the show, reach out to me. I've been getting more and more folks saying, hey, have you thought about this guy? I think this person would be a really good fit. I love it. It's well received. And we'll see if it's how we can best tell their story. And speaking of stories too, same thing with businesses. If you've got a story and you think this community of entrepreneurs, leaders, and public figures would really be a good fit for what you're trying to do, your work in the world, how you guys are thinking, in successional in successional planning and at a leadership level, or whatever it might be, right? If this really aligns with how you guys are doing what you do, reach out to us. Reach out to me, and let's connect, and let's see if we can't help tell your story together to the world. Well, it's been said that good men learn from their own mistakes, but great men, they learn from the mistakes of others. So go and be great. We'll see you next time.